The first time Ethan kissed me, it wasn't love. It was strategy. And the first time I kissed him back, I was stupid enough to think it meant something. The night was heavy with cigarette smoke and secrets. In the dim light of a New York penthouse, Ethan wore his ambition like a tailored suit, flawless, sharp, and dangerous. He was the kind of man who could talk his way into heaven and convince God to hand over the throne. And me? I was just a mistake that breathed. He needed a pawn, and I was perfect for Ida, nobody from Queens, a freelance photographer with debt high enough to drown me. His campaign manager said I had the right look, clean, relatable, and desperate. Ethan's plan was simple: make the public believe the mayor, his biggest rival, was having an affair with a young man. And I was to play that lover. Just pretend. Ethan had said that night, his tone somewhere between command and seduction. But when his hand brushed my cheek, the lie felt too much like the truth. That was 3 years ago. Now, standing in front of the mayor's mansion again, my heart is an open wound that never learned to scar. I can still taste the champagne from that first gala, the whisper of Ethan's breath in my ear as he told me to smile for the cameras. "You'll thank me one day," he'd said, eyes glinting like the city lights outside. "After this, you'll never have to worry about money again." He wasn't wrong. But what he didn't tell me was that I'd lose everything else: trust, pride, and the part of me that still believed in love. The scandal broke like wildfire. Overnight, I became the secret lover of the mayor of New York City, the man married with 2 kids and a perfect public image. The tabloids ate it up. Ethan's candidate, a young senator named Gray Whitmore, surged ahead in the polls. Ethan didn't call me for weeks. Then one night, he showed up at my apartment. Rain-soaked, pale, silent. When I opened the door, he didn't speak. He just pulled me into his arms and kissed me like the world was burning behind him and I was his only salvation. I didn't ask why. I should have. But I didn't. Because love, I've learned, isn't a flame. It's gasoline waiting for a match. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked him once, months after the scandal cooled down, when we were tangled in his sheets, the city lights tracing soft shapes on his back. He looked at me with those same unreadable eyes. "No," he said. "I did what I had to do. You ruined lives, Ethan. So did they." That was always his defense, cold, practical, moral in its own twisted way. Ethan never saw people, he saw moves. And in his chessboard world, I was a piece he'd learned to move too well. Still, there were nights when I caught him watching me like he wanted to say something different. When his hand lingered too long. When his smile almost trembled. But he never did. And so I left. I disappeared into a small town in Maine, the kind of place where secrets go to die quietly. I opened a small photography studio, took pictures of weddings, children, sunsets, anything that didn't remind me of men in suits or lies dressed as love. 2 years passed. Then one morning, I saw his face again in TV. Ethan Blake, now chief advisor to Senator Whitmore, the youngest presidential candidate in U.S. history. Same confident smile, same sharp eyes. But when the camera cut to a close-up, I saw something else, a flicker of something hollow. Regret, maybe, or guilt. It didn't matter. He was gone from my life, or so I thought. The knock came 3 weeks later. I opened the door and there he was. Ethan Blake in my doorway, looking like a ghost who'd forgotten how to haunt. His suit was immaculate, as always, but his eyes, they weren't. "Noah," he said softly. Hearing my name from his lips again felt like a bruise reopening. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "I needed to see you. You've seen enough of me, don't you think?" He smiled, but it was broken. "You have every right to hate me." "I don't hate you," I said. "I just finally learned who you are." Ethan took a step closer, his cologne wrapping around me like a memory I didn't want. "You don't know everything, Noah." "Then tell me," I snapped. "Tell me what I missed when you used me to destroy a man's family." He flinched, but his jaw tightened. "It wasn't just about politics." "Don't," I said, turning away. "Don't you dare make this about us." He sighed, and for the first time, I heard something break in his voice. "The mayor. He's dead, Noah." I froze. "What?" "Car crash. 2 weeks ago. It wasn't an accident. I stared at him, unable to breathe. What the hell are you saying? I think someone's covering it up, Ethan said. And before he died, he left something. Something with your name on it. My chest tightened. What do you mean? Ethan reached into his coat and handed me an envelope. My name was scrawled on it in handwriting I recognized immediately, the mayor's. Inside, there was a single photograph. Me 3 years ago holding a baby wrapped in a hospital blanket. And on the back, written in the same trembling hand, protect him. His name is Adam Noah Whitmore. The world tilted beneath me. My fingers went numb. Ethan watched my face, his own expression unreadable. You didn't know? I shook my head, unable to speak, and then I saw a flicker of emotion he tried so hard to hide. Regret. Deep, gut-wrenching regret. Noah, he whispered, voice breaking. I swear if I had known. But his words were just smoke against the storm that had already begun. Because in that moment, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about love. It was about survival. The photo slipped from my fingers and fluttered to the ground, landing face down in a puddle. I couldn't look at it again. The boy was mine in ways I couldn't even comprehend. Ethan knelt, carefully picking it up, his movements delicate, almost reverent. When he looked up at me, rain streaking down his face, his eyes weren't the eyes of a strategist anymore. They were the eyes of a man terrified of what he'd done. Noah, he said quietly, we need to talk. Not here. I don't think we need to talk at all, I replied, my voice shaking despite my attempt to keep it steady. You lied to me once, and it ruined my life. I'm not letting you do it again. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. This isn't about me, or politics. This is about you and him. Him? The boy, he said. Adam. The name hit me like a bullet. How long have you known? I asked. Ethan's silence was my answer. I wanted to hit him, to scream, to make him feel what it was like to lose everything and still have to breathe through the ache. But when I looked at him, I saw the cracks. The guilt that had hollowed him out. The regret that no ambition could bury. Fine, I said, shoving my hands into my jacket pockets. You've got 10 minutes. After that, I'm gone. He nodded. There's a cafe around the corner. No cameras. No ears. The cafe was nearly empty. Just the hum of old jazz and the smell of coffee burning in a forgotten pot. We sat in a corner booth, shadows curling around us. Ethan took off his wet jacket and leaned forward, his fingers laced tightly. The Mayor Thomas Whitmore, he wasn't who the public thought he was. There were things. Off the record. Deals, offshore accounts, ties to defense contractors. When he realized someone was trying to expose him, he panicked. That's why he agreed to the scandal. I frowned. He agreed to be accused of having an affair with a man? Ethan nodded. It was his way of controlling the story. Better a scandal than prison. He thought if he leaned into it, played the martyr, he could distract the press from the money trail. And you let him use me. His voice broke a little. I didn't have a choice, Noah. If I hadn't gone along, they would have buried you. Literally. I froze. What do you mean, they? Ethan hesitated, then slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside were documents, bank transfers, security clearances, surveillance photos, and in the center a list of names. One of them was mine. They kept tabs on you after you left, Ethan said. They think the mayor told you something before he died. My breath hitched. He didn't. He never even called me again after the scandal. I thought he hated me. Ethan shook his head. He didn't hate you. He was protecting you. The silence between us stretched, heavy with ghosts. Finally, I asked, why are you helping me now? Ethan's eyes met mine, and I saw the answer before he said it. Because I can't keep living with what I did to you. His voice was soft, raw. Every day I tell myself it was just politics, that it was necessary. But when I saw that photo, when I saw his name, I realized I'd crossed a line I can't uncross. Noah, I ruined you. And I can't let them do it again. I looked away, fighting the tremor in my chest. And what about the boy? Adam, he's safe for now. The mayor's widow has him under protection. But they'll come for him eventually. He's the only living proof of everything Thomas was trying to expose. Expose what? That the campaign funds for half the Senate were being funneled through defense contracts using military charity fronts. It's treason, Noah. My blood ran cold. So, what you want me to help you expose it now? After everything. I want to protect you, he said. And yes, I want to fix what I broke. I laughed bitterly. You can't fix 3 years of lies with one act of conscience. I can try. He reached out across the table, and for a moment the world went quiet. His hand hovered near mine, not touching, but close enough that the air between us trembled. Please, he whispered, let me do one thing right. I didn't answer, but I didn't walk away either. 2 days later, we were on the road together, driving through the rain-soaked highways of Pennsylvania, heading toward D.C. His plan was insane. Sneak into a private archive tied to Whitmore's campaign, retrieve whatever evidence the mayor had hidden, and deliver it to a journalist Ethan still trusted. You sure you still have friends in the press? I asked, staring out the window. Ethan smirked faintly. Not friends. Debts. The city skyline appeared like a memory we both wanted to forget. Tell me something, I said quietly. Was any of it real? Between us? He didn't look at me. Does it matter? It matters to me. After a long silence, he said, yes, it was real. Every damn moment of it. Even when you were lying? He nodded. Especially then. The confession hit harder than I expected. I turned back toward the window, hiding the sting in my eyes. Outside, the night blurred into streaks of gold and blue, like the whole world was crying and pretending it wasn't. We reached the archive building near midnight. It was an old government storage site on the edge of Arlington, abandoned, supposedly. But the faint glow from inside told a different story. Ethan parked 2 blocks away, checking the street before speaking. We go in, grab the files, and get out. No heroics. Since when do you play it safe? I asked. He gave a tight smile. Since I found something worth losing again. We slipped through the side entrance, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Dust hung in the air like ghosts, and the faint hum of electricity echoed through the hallways. Ethan led us down a stairwell to a basement room with a single metal door. He entered a code from memory. The lock clicked open. Inside were stacks of boxes labeled Whitmore Trust and Community Renewal. This is it, he whispered. He started rifling through folders, scanning papers, snapping photos with his phone. I stood guard by the door, listening for footsteps. Every sound felt like a heartbeat. Ethan, I said suddenly, what if this gets us killed? He glanced up, eyes soft. Then at least we die trying to do something right. Something inside me cracked then. I didn't realize how much I still loved him until that moment standing there in the dark. His face lit by a flickering light. His ambition turned into something almost human. We didn't make it out unnoticed. As we reached the parking lot, headlights flared. 2 black SUVs blocked the exit. Men in suits stepped out, their movements too precise to be cops. Run, Ethan hissed. We darted toward the back fence, bullets shattering glass behind us. I stumbled, nearly fell, but Ethan grabbed my arm, pulling me forward. We climbed the fence, landed hard on the other side. My lungs burned. My heart was a war drum in my chest. We ran through the narrow alleys until we reached a dead end behind an old warehouse. I turned to him, panting. Now what? Ethan looked around, then handed me his phone. Take this. It has everything: files, photos, contacts. What about you? I'll distract them. Buy you time. No, I snapped. I'm not leaving you again. He smiled, and for a moment, I saw the man I'd fallen for, the one behind the schemes and the lies. You have to. If they catch me, it's over. But if you get this to the press, everything changes. I shook my head, tears stinging. I can't lose you again. He stepped closer, cupping my face with both hands. You never lost me, Noah. I just lost myself. And then he kissed me, fiercely, desperately. like it was both a goodbye and a promise. Before I could speak, he pushed me toward the side gate. Go! I ran. The last thing I saw was Ethan turning toward the headlights, raising his hands as they surrounded him. When I finally stopped running, dawn was breaking. I was on the edge of the city, standing on a bridge that overlooked the Potomac. My hands shook as I looked down at his phone. A new message appeared on the screen. From Ethan. If I don't make it, tell him the truth. Tell Adam I loved him. My knees buckled. I sank to the ground, clutching the phone to my chest. The river below carried the first light of morning, cold and beautiful. I didn't know if Ethan was alive. I didn't know if the files would save us. But for the first time in years, I knew what I had to do. Because love isn't about how it begins. It's about what you're willing to risk when it ends. 3 days. That's how long it took for the world to start unraveling. The files on Ethan's phone weren't just campaign documents. They were a map of corruption that reached from City Hall to Capitol Hill. Bank accounts tied to senators, defense contractors, and media executives. Evidence that the so-called Whitmore scandal had been orchestrated to bury something far worse. But I couldn't run anymore. Ethan had already done that for me. So, I went to the only person who could make it matter, the one journalist Ethan said he could still trust. Clara Reynolds, an investigative reporter who'd once been exiled from mainstream media for exposing a defense fraud case. When I met her in a small diner in Baltimore, she didn't even flinch at the danger. You're Noah Hart, she said, eyes sharp behind her glasses. You're the guy from the Whitmore scandal. Yeah, I said quietly, and I have the proof it wasn't what they said it was. She studied me for a moment, then motioned to the seat across from her. Sit down. Tell me everything. I told her about Ethan, about the staged affair, the betrayal, the photo, and the letter the mayor left behind. Every word felt like pulling glass from my throat. Clara listened, expression unreadable, jotting down notes only when she had to. When I finished, she reached for the phone I'd placed between us. If this is real, it's the biggest political scandal in a decade. But if it's not, it's real, I said. He died for it. Something flickered in her eyes. He, Ethan Blake. She froze. Blake's dead. I don't know, I admitted. The night we got the files, men came after us. I haven't heard from him since. She exhaled slowly. If he's alive, he's off the grid. If he's not well, someone made sure of it. Her gaze softened slightly. You must have loved him. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. By the next morning, Clara had already contacted her sources. A hidden server in Delaware. A whistleblower in the Justice Department. The pieces began to fall together like a jigsaw puzzle built from fear and blood. But exposing it meant putting my name and Adam's back in the headlines. When Clara suggested it, I hesitated. They'll destroy me all over again, I said. She gave me a long look. They already tried. You're still here. That night, I sat in a motel room, staring at the city lights bleeding through the curtains. I took out my camera habit I hadn't broken. The lens felt heavier than I remembered. I turned it toward the window and whispered to the darkness. You told me to smile for the cameras, Ethan. Guess it's my turn to aim one at the truth. I didn't know if he could hear me, but I hoped he could. The story broke 2 days later. Political puppetry. Leaked evidence exposes decade of corruption in federal campaigns. Within hours, news anchors shouted over each other. Social media exploded, and senators scrambled for statements. My name surfaced again, the whistleblower, the fake lover, the victim turned hero. But all I cared about was one headline buried at the bottom of a local paper in D.C. Former campaign director Ethan Blake reported missing. It wasn't confirmation. It wasn't closure. But it was enough to keep hope alive. A week later, I went to visit the mayor's widow. Her home was quiet, tucked away in Virginia's countryside. She looked older than I remembered, grief carved into the lines of her face. She led me to the backyard, where a small boy played under a maple tree. Adam. He was smaller than I imagined, but he had my eyes. My heart stopped. When he saw me, he tilted his head curiously. Are you the picture man? He asked. I smiled through the ache. Yeah, I guess I am. Mrs. Whitmore watched us quietly. He talks about you, she said softly. Thomas told him stories about the man who saved him, even when he didn't understand what saving meant. I didn't save anyone, I said. You saved what mattered. She stepped closer, her hand resting lightly on my arm. He needs someone now, Noah. Someone who isn't haunted by power or politics. Someone who remembers love before it got twisted. I looked back at the boy, laughing as he chased a butterfly across the grass. My throat tightened. You're sure? She nodded. Thomas wanted it that way. And so, weeks later, I found myself back in New York, walking hand in hand with Adam through Central Park. The air smelled like spring, and for the first time in years, the world didn't feel like a battlefield. We stopped by the lake, where cherry blossoms drifted across the water. Adam tugged my sleeve. Tell me about him, he said suddenly. Who? The man who sent you the message. My chest ached. He was someone who made mistakes, but he tried to fix them. Did he love you? The question hit harder than any truth ever could. Yes, I said quietly. He did. Then maybe he'll come back, Adam said, smiling. People who love don't stay gone forever. I swallowed hard, brushing his hair gently. Maybe you're right, kiddo. Days turned into weeks. The investigation led to multiple arrests, resignations, and televised hearings. Clara's name was everywhere. Mine too. But I kept my distance, focusing on Adam, his laughter, his questions, his drawings of Ethan the hero, based on the little I'd told him. Then, one evening, as the city lights blinked awake, I received an email. No sender. No subject. Just one line. Look outside. My pulse quickened. I stepped onto the balcony. Down below, by the curb, stood a man. Black coat, hands in his pockets, face tilted toward the sky as snow began to fall. For a moment, I thought my heart was lying to me. But when he looked up, our eyes met and I knew. Ethan. I ran down the stairs, not even grabbing a coat. The cold bit through my skin, but I didn't care. He was there, real, alive, breathing. When I reached him, words failed me. I just stood there, staring. He looked thinner, older, but those eyes, they were the same. I thought you were dead, I whispered. He smiled faintly. Almost. But then I remembered I still had something to come back to. Tears blurred my vision. You idiot. Yeah, he said softly. But I'm your idiot. I laughed through the tears, hitting his chest lightly before pulling him into a hug. The moment our arms wrapped around each other, everything I'd been carrying, the guilt, the fear, the loneliness, just broke. He held me tighter. You did it, he murmured. You exposed them. We did it, I said. You gave me the truth. He leaned back just enough to look at me. And what about Adam? He's safe. He's perfect. Ethan's eyes softened. He looks like you. Sometimes, I said with a shaky smile. But when he smiles, he looks like us. We walked back upstairs, side by side. Adam was drawing on the floor when we entered. He looked up, curious, then brightened. Is that him? He asked. Ethan knelt down, hesitant. Hey, kid. Adam studied him for a moment, then grinned. You're taller than I thought. Ethan laughed, really laughed, for the first time since I'd known him. It sounded like forgiveness. I watched as Adam climbed onto his knee without fear. Something inside me clicked back into place, like the world had been waiting for this exact picture all along. Later, when Adam fell asleep on the couch, Ethan and I sat by the window, the city glowing below us. Do you ever think we'll be forgiven? He asked quietly. I took his hand, tracing the faint scars on his knuckles. Forgiveness isn't something you wait for, I said. It's something you choose to live like you already have. He smiled faintly. You always were the poet. You always were the problem, I teased. He laughed again, pulling me closer until our foreheads touched. I missed this, he whispered. Me too. Outside, snow kept falling soft, endless, merciful. Months passed. We built something fragile but real, a home filled with laughter, mess, and the kind of quiet peace we'd both thought we'd lost forever. Ethan left politics for good. I opened a small gallery featuring photos that told stories of truth and love, not lies. The first picture that hung on the wall was of the three of us, Ethan, me, and Adam on a windy pier, sunlight breaking through gray clouds. People often asked about it. "What's the story behind this one?" they'd say, and I'd just smile. It's about second chances, because that's what it was. Not redemption in the grand, heroic sense, but something smaller, more human. Ethan and I didn't become perfect. We fought, we laughed, we learned. But every morning, when I woke up and saw him beside me, when Adam crawled into bed between us, I remembered what we'd fought for. Not fame, not politics, not power, just love, unapologetic, imperfect, and alive. In the end, I realized something Ethan had never been able to say out loud but always meant. You can't undo the past, but you can build something honest on top of its ruins. And sometimes that's enough. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.